Now, down yonder in Pulaski County, there's a holler folks don't talk about much after dark. A place where the briars crawl thick around toppled stones and the woods hunker down heavy, like they's hiding something. That place is called Soul's Chapel. And they say, if you linger long enough, you'll hear a preacher's voice riding the wind. But them words he's speaking, they ain't nothing holy. Howdy, friends. Welcome on back to Kentucky Melody, where these hills don't just echo with songs and stories. Sometimes they whisper warnings. Tonight, we're stepping into one of Pulaski County's darkest hollers, to a church what's been gone near 100 years, but still carries the stench of brimstone. Way back, for the war between the states ever stained these hills with blood, a farmer by the name of John Rydens laid claim to a patch of ground near a little place called Shopville. He wasn't looking just to raise corn or cattle. No, sir, John had it in his heart to build something eternal. So he raised up a frame church right there on that red clay ridge, and he christened it Soul's Chapel, named in honor of Bishop Joshua Soul, one of the mighty voices in the Methodist Church. Folks said Rydens hammered them beams with prayers on his lips, hoping every nail would bind heaven a little tighter to earth. At first, the place nearabouts thrived. It swelled to near 200 members. Come Sunday morning, you'd see wagons and riders snaking down the road, families in their best clothes gathering to sing them hymns that shook the rafters, hear preaching that rattled the sinner's bones, and lay their dead to rest in that hallowed dirt. The graveyard filled slow but steady, each stone standing like a sentinel watching over the next. But when the Civil War come boiling across Kentucky, it didn't just tear kin from kin, it split the very church in two. Union-leaning folk peeled off and raised Bradley's Chapel just a couple mile away. Soul's Chapel, though, she bent south. They nailed her name to the signboard as Methodist Episcopal Church South, and from that day on the air seemed heavier, like a shadow had rooted in the walls. Years turned like pages in a worn-out Bible, and Soul's Chapel started to wither. Families drifted, voices thinned, and by the 1930s she was a hollow shell. Windows busted clean out, roof sagging low, birds nesting where angels once was prayed to. The pulpit gathered dust, the pews warped and gray, and silence took hold where once the Spirit had thundered. Then came that night in 1973. No one knows for sure how it started. Some whisper it was vandals, others say the devil himself struck a match. But fire lit up the ridge, crawling up the timbers like red serpents, licking her bones black. For a spell her husk lingered, a charred carcass of God's house standing against the moon. Then time, weather, and vandals finished what the fire begun, till only the stone foundation and graveyard remained, stubborn as the dead that sleep beneath it. But friend, don't think the tale ended when the church itself crumbled. Folks say that's when it truly begun. For a church can die, but a hauntin' can outlive stone, timber, and even memory. And out yonder at Soul's Chapel, where the wind moans through toppled stones and the ground don't rest easy, they say the dead still gather, waiting on a congregation that ain't coming back. Now the old folks round Shopville still lean in close when they whisper about a preacher that passed through them parts back in the early 1900s. Ain't nobody rightly recall where he come from, just that he appeared sudden, tall as a cedar, eyes dark as storm clouds and a voice smoother than honey sliding off a comb. When he preached, sinners swore they felt fire in their chests. But that flame, neighbor, it weren't heaven's, it was something darker. At first, the flock swelled fat and faithful. Folks hung on every word, filling them pews like sheep come home. But once he had 'em, once their souls was tied tight to his voice, the strangeness began. They say he'd hold them big tent revivals by day, shouting and singing till the rafters near rattled loose. But by moonrise, lanterns doused, he'd strike a match and light black candles on the very pulpit. Soon after, livestock went missing. Goats, hogs, even a milk cow or two. Some neighbors swore they seen faint red glow slipping through the church windows, and in the daylight they found the floorboards burned with crooked pentagrams, scorched symbols no hymn could wash away. And then come the blood. The tales get darker the deeper you listen. Some whisper he sacrificed animals right there on the altar, their cries mingling with prayers turned sour. Other tell worse, that he drew men and women from his very flock into rites so foul that ended with screams that no hymn nor holler could cover. But the blackest tale of all, and God help us if it's true, claims the Reverend turned on his own kin. They say he slit the throat of his wife, and worse still, strung up his little boy in the rafters, letting their lifeblood drip steady, a crimson rain falling upon the wood of the altar. That was the night, they say, Soul's Chapel crossed over, from a house of the Lord to a doorway for every unholy thing scratching at the veil. When word spread, the town had had enough. The menfolk rose up in a fury. They dragged that preacher out, and some claim they hung him from a hickory tree not 50 paces from the chapel's door. But here's the twist. No grave was dug, no record penned. It was as if the very earth spat him back, refusing to hold such evil, and so his spirit lingered. Not buried, not bound. Tethered to that cursed ground, walking still, searching for the flock he led astray. A preacher with no heaven, no hell, only the dark between. After that preacher's fall, folks swore the graveyard itself turned wrong. What once was just a patch of hallowed ground became a place the living best not linger. They say any time a fresh body got laid down in that clay, within days the headstone would bleed. Thin red streaks seeped up from nowhere, trickling down like tears, not thick, but watery, pale, as if the earth itself was crying blood. And then, just as sudden, them stains would vanish, soaked back into the soil like the ground was drinking it. By night, the markers took on a queer glow, not bright like lanterns nor holy like candles, but faint, sickly, as if something deep inside the stone was burning, smoldering slow. Neighbors whispered that the dead weren't resting proper, and that their spirits had been stirred and soured by what the Reverend done. And the ground, it weren't safe neither. Where you'd set a boot, you'd find snakes curled up twixt the graves. Not just one kind, but black snakes, copperheads, rattlers, all tangled together like they'd been summoned. Folks said it was the devil himself, laying his serpents to guard the place, making sure no soul with good sense would linger long. As years crawled on, trespassers crept in, hoping to catch a thrill or dare a ghost. What they found sent more than one running back down the ridge white as a sheet. Salt circles scrawled across the dirt, half-burned candles still smoldering in the shadows, and before the fire took the last of the chapel's bones, they swear the pulpit floor bore a great pentagram scorched deep into the wood, black as coal, too clean to be an accident. But the darkest sign come later, spray-painted bold across the chapel's ruined door. Letters big, jagged, shivering like they'd been written a hand not quite human. The words read, "Namos Omens lives here." Ain't a soul in Shopville ever agreed on what it means. Latin, some reckon. A name, others say. But ask the old-timers and they'll tell you straight. Them words weren't left by no hand still living. They were a claim, a mark. Proof that whatever evil claimed Soul's Chapel never left, and maybe never will. Now, reckon this is where the hair starts to stand up on your neck. Travelers driving past Soul's Chapel late in the night tell of seeing white figures drifting slow through the stones. They move easy, like they're floating on a wind no one else can feel. But strike a lantern or a flashlight toward them and they vanish slick as fog. Others swear they've seen orbs, blue fireballs, dancing through the trees, bobbing low among the tombstones, then slipping right through the old foundation walls. They blink out sudden, like sparks burning off a wet log. If you set yourself quiet in that holler long enough, the night will turn against you. The air grows cold, heavy, like a weight pressing down on your chest. And then it comes. A voice, a preacher's voice, low and thundering, rolling through the dark as though a sermon's being preached to shadows. Only it ain't scripture. No psalm nor verse you'd know. These are words twisted and foul, the kind that chill your marrow and leave your guts knotted tight. Some brave or foolish folks left tape recorders out on the graves overnight. Come morning, they played 'em back, and what they swore they heard weren't no crickets nor coyotes. It was whispers, whole conversations, voices layered soft and steady, like the dead themselves were sitting in the dark, murmuring amongst one another. And then there's a tale of one boy out of Shopville. He said he saw a shadow standing tall where the pulpit once rose, tall as a pine tree, blacker than midnight, still as a man waiting. The boy turned to run, heart pounding, but behind him he heard it. Boots, heavy boots pounding the dirt, keeping pace with his every step. When he dared to glance back, the graveyard lay quiet, empty, only the stones standing and the ground breathing beneath them. Paranormal folks with all their gadgets and notebooks call Soul's Chapel one of the most haunted places in Kentucky. But the locals, they don't waste words on haunted. They call it cursed. These days, Soul's Chapel ain't much more than ruins. The stone foundation lies like old bones, the headstones leaning crooked, names worn near smooth and briars crawling thick as if trying to smother what's left. The wind through them trees carries a hush, like the land itself remembers what was done there. But if you find yourself wandering down that narrow back road after sundown, best keep your eyes fixed straight ahead and your prayers close to heart. For they say the Reverend never left. His shadow still paces them stones, his sermon rolling low through the holler. Not words to save a soul, but words to claim one. And he's waiting on another flock fool enough to listen. So tell me, friends, what do y'all reckon? Was Soul's Chapel just another country church lost to time, or did the devil truly set his pulpit here in Pulaski County? Did them stones really bleed? Did folks truly see fireballs drifting through the graveyard? And what about that preacher's voice? Is it still echoing through the holler, waiting on another flock to listen? If you've seen the glow of them tombstones, felt the air turn cold, or heard footsteps where no living man walked, I want to hear your tale. Drop it down in the comments. And don't forget, if these holler stories chill you to the bone, hit that subscribe button. 'Cause here at Kentucky Melody, the shadows never rest. And every time you come back, they'll have another story waiting just for you.